Welcome back. The Trump administration, in a memo to Congress yesterday, said that the U.S. now is engaged in a formal, quote, armed conflict with terrorist drug cartels. Now, the New York Times explains it a different way. The New York Times claims that the president is, quote, cementing his claim to extraordinary wartime powers in an armed conflict as defined by international law. A country can lawfully kill enemy fighters even when they pose no threat, detain them indefinitely without trials, and prosecute them in military courts.
Ecuador doesn't produce drugs but helps move them around South America and into North America. Now forces there are helping to track down the leaders of the drug gangs involved.
These house raids aren't subtle. Ecuadorian police smash their way inside. They're looking for drugs for sure, but the priority is the dealers. Any intelligence they can get from them could lead the Ecuadorians and their American partners further up the chain of command, to the bosses who oversee the smuggling network. This is what President Trump wants to see. Countries like Ecuador supporting his war on Latin American drug cartels. And the message has got through to the police here.
Moments ago, President Trump posted on social media that the U.S. military carried out a second strike targeting drug cartels that he says were transporting illegal narcotics to the U.S. The president also posting this video. It follows a similar strike carried out earlier this month in the southern Caribbean, and it comes as the Trump administration looks to ramp up pressure on the Maduro regime in Venezuela.
Tonight, the Pentagon taking new steps to use military force against drug cartels. In a memo sent to Congress, the White House saying the U.S. is now in an armed conflict with the narco gangs and labeling their members not just as criminals, but as enemy combatants.
And now we'll look at cartels.
Earlier this week, President Trump addressed the recent strikes on alleged narco boats in the Caribbean that he says were bound for the U.S. Those 3 attacks killing 17 people. The White House claiming all those on board were members of drug cartels, now designated as foreign terrorist organizations.
We had a lot of drugs coming in through water. We call it water drugs, just a simple term. We don't have any boats on the water.
South Florida Republican Congressman Carlos Jimenez backing the president, writing, "I fully support our military operation in the Caribbean to destroy the criminal drug cartels run by illegitimate dictator Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela. President Trump must have all options on the table to annihilate these thieves." Much of the crackdown on cartel activity has focused on Venezuela and Maduro, the U.S. placing a $50 million bounty on his head and designating Maduro as a known leader of the infamous Cartel of the Suns. This week, Maduro saying he's prepared to declare a state of emergency over what he calls U.S. aggression.
We'll see what happens with Venezuela. Venezuela's been very dangerous with drugs and with other things.
And in that memo to Congress, the Pentagon did note those 3 strikes on the alleged drug boats were fairly limited in their scope, but that the U.S. military is at the ready to continue combating any cartel activity.
There's a lot of pressure on countries like Ecuador from the United States to take the fight to the gangs. Do you listen to that and say, okay,
we listen about the United States are giving us money and guns, technology, but we are so happy about that.
These raids are non-stop. This is a dangerous neighborhood, and Lynx and his team are revved up.
All of the police have their weapons out. Sometime in being here, this guy's been arrested, and now they're looking through rubbish to see if they can they've already found some drugs. But obviously this is where the stash is kept. As I say, this is even as we arrived, it was quite clear the police were very, very tense about entering into this barrier.
Yes, sir.
Lynx thinks we're being watched, so he sends up a drone. He flies it deep into gang territory to see what's going on.
What did the drone show you?
There is many people over there in the climb, in the top of the hill, because they are like radars. So they're looking for us. What are we doing? And they have advantage because they are
They're high up.
Yeah, they high up.
Well, look, even at the Republican National Convention before the election, during my speech, I said if President Trump won, he would designate these cartels as terrorist organizations, which is the right thing to do. They've killed more Americans than every terrorist organization combined with the poison United States. So he treating them as terrorists like they should be, and he's playing the away game. He's not waiting for the drugs to get here to kill hundreds of thousands of Americans through their poisoning. He's playing the away game. He's going to stop them before they get here and save American lives. He's doing exactly what he promised the American people he's going to do. By taking these actions, he is saving countless lives every day in this country.
Yeah, it's just incredible what's going on. Can you give us a sense of the activity at the border with regard to these drug cartels? I went to the border 6 times over the last several years, and I know that these drug cartels take people over the border and then they keep in touch with them because they want them to be mules for them in America.
Exactly. Today we have the most secure border in the history of this nation. The cartels are hurting. They're going bankrupt, so now they got to take maritime. Coming across that land border is very hard now because the border's so locked down because of the actions of President Trump. So we knew when we locked the land border down, they're going to take maritime, they're going to take to the water, and that's exactly what they're doing. So we're attacking them at the water. But as far as the drugs coming across the land border, they're at historic lows right now because the border is the most secure it's ever has been. So we got to look at aviation, them coming through the air. We got to look at the maritime. Right now, most of our efforts are maritime, either through the Caribbean or through the Pacific, and we're stopping them dead in their tracks. Which again, the effects, the amount of fentanyl seizures have dropped dramatically across the southern border, and the number of fentanyl overdose deaths has also dropped dramatically because of the actions of President Trump. He's doing exactly what he should be doing as the commander-in-chief, saving American lives.
And Ross, as you know, some members of Congress have raised concerns over the strikes on those drug boats. How are they responding to the White House now saying the U.S. is officially in an armed conflict with the cartels?
Well, tonight we are hearing from the lead Democrat of the Senate Armed Services Committee. He's raising some of those very same concerns tonight, Louis. He's saying that he agrees the United States needs to continue to try to stop the cartels, but worries these moves from the president amount to him effectively trying to declare and carry out a war without any approval from Congress.
It's obvious the cartels are weaponizing drugs for their own profiteering, for sure. It's undermining American society. The health and welfare of our society has been seriously penetrated. Hundreds of thousands of people have been killed by fentanyl alone. Now, the approach we've been taking isn't working. So this is an approach that's different, to be sure. We've stopped these boats in the past, but they keep coming. Now we're shooting the boats, and it's likely they're going to stop coming. The president, I think, is notifying Congress that he defines this as armed conflict, which legally then gives him the authority to treat it not just as a law enforcement and aggressive policing, where there's no threat to the police. Here, even though there's no threat to an armed military force, they can use that lethal force against them, even though there's no direct threat to them. Because why? It's an armed conflict.
Got it.
So that distinction is important. I think this will get discussed among lawyers. It's certainly going to get discussed among the Congress in terms of the legalities here. I'm not an expert on the legalities, but I do know what right looks like. And doing this makes sense to me.